What is C-free line 1, 2?
Things about ready to start. Are you free?
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
That's why Paul should start.
Hello? This one works.
Hello? Okay. All right. Looks like we can. All right. Hey folks, we're going to get started. So I'm John Benzo-Flynn, and I'm sure that none of you know who I am, but I have a pretty good guess that by the fact that you're sitting here, that you know my friend here, David Crane. So like a lot of you, I grew up playing, being amazed by the games of the early developers, the early game developers for the Atari and the Commodore. And over the last couple of years, while I was running a site called Addicting Games, I've actually had the pleasure of meeting and partnering with David on a number of projects. And we're here to show you our latest collaboration.
So, yeah, what we're announcing here is two things. The creation of a new video game studio. And this is part of my team here. They'll get introduced later. And as our first project, decided after 30 years that I'm going to go back to the jungle. So, what else can I say? Should we just run the video? Well, all right. You notice the last slide said we'd like you to come along with us, and that's because we're going to fund this project through Kickstarter. And you've seen in the last few months that there are some big video game projects being funded through Kickstarter. And it's really very interesting. I've been in this business for 35 years. I've published over 100 games. And the standard publishing method of making a game is to go to a publisher, convince that publisher that this game is something they really want in their catalog, and then they get together in their boardroom and they figure out how many they think they're going to sell by pure guesswork, and then they cut that in half so that they can make it more likely that they hit that, and then they cut it again to come up with a budget for developing the game, and you end up with a budget that's been cut so many times that you can't actually make the game that would sell that many copies that they want to sell. Kickstarter turns that completely on its head. With this kind of video game project through Kickstarter, the backers are going to tell me what game they want me to make by what kind of a budget I have. And then I develop the game based on that budget. The backers, each and every one of them, get a copy of the game as part of the backing process. And so at that point, it's kind of like, okay, then we put out the game and whatever happens, happens. But it really makes for a completely different method. All game development is funded by you, the game player. It's always the case. But it's a long process. you bought this game before, so the publisher has money to spend. Now the publisher goes through their process and all this, and eventually funds another game. Through Kickstarter, backers get to choose, this is the game that I want to play, or this is the team that I want to see making a game. And through that process, the budget is created, and development teams like myself, I put together a team, I go out and put together a staff and develop the game that you guys want to see. So we are starting a Kickstarter project today. It will actually happen at some point during this talk. And with a Kickstarter, you have to have a video that kind of explains what's going on. So we will show the video. So you guys will be the first people not on the team to get to see this video. So let's run that.
Do you know this man? His name is David Crane, and he's responsible for doing something few video game designers can claim. He created an entire genre. He's the man behind such hits as Freeway, Grand Prix, Ghostbusters, A Boy and His Blob, Amazing Tennis, and most importantly, Pitfall, the first platform adventure game.
Pitfall? I love that game.
He's received the Vera Award for Video Game Designer of the Year, the Game Developer's Choice Award, multiple Gold and Platinum Awards for games sold, and did I mention he was the co-founder of Activision? That he has not one, but 2 games on display in the Smithsonian, and is one of the leading authorities on professional showbirding in the Western Hemisphere.
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's not true. But I'm gonna let you in on a secret. He's working on a new game and wants you to be a part of it.
Every time I talk to anyone in the video game business, they always refer to that jungle adventure I did 30 years ago. I'm working on a new concept for a jungle adventure game using the latest technology at my disposal. I'm hoping that there's a lot of you out there who would like to make this project a reality.
When I was running Addicting Games, we really tried to embody this philosophy of simple, fun, and addictive. It's a philosophy that David Crane and Activision really helped pioneer in the early days of gaming, and I'm looking forward to making this game just as successful and great for you.
David and his team have already begun the concept phase of the project, and with your help, they'll begin production.
Collectible treasures.
I like that.
Well, what if the hero has a sidekick, like a blob?
Boy and His Blob? Awesome game.
Okay, what about if there was ancient ruins?
I like that.
What if we...
Great idea. What do you think? You're not part of this project yet, but you can be.
The great thing about Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general is you get to be directly involved not only in choosing the games that you want to see made, but in voting on key features and really being part of the game development process.
I think you can make a better game using crowdfunding than with traditional publisher funding. With this Kickstarter project, my team is going to develop the game that we want to do in collaboration with you, the backer, and create the best game possible.
Let's talk about rewards. We've got collectible badges, t-shirts, posters.
Game soundtrack, custom treasure designed to have your name or likeness on it.
Maybe most importantly, lunch with the crew.
To polygonal complexity.
Your actual lunch experience may differ.
Dude, is that Squab? Are you serious?
We're really excited to be partnering with Game Trailers on this Kickstarter campaign. They have an audience of really savvy gamers that I think understand where we've been and where we're trying to go with this. With your support and David's great gaming experience, we're going to make an amazing game.
So help me to make the best game I can for you.
And depending on your level of support, David's going to personally teach you to horse whisper.
No, I won't.
All right, so the team, the actual production team is going to be dependent on what kind of budget I'm working for. I have a game designed for the Kickstarter minimum raise, but if people want more, the more the Kickstarter raises, the more goes into the production team. It's very expensive to make video games, and if I want to hire the best talent to do this sort of thing, it's going to cost a lot of money. So anyway, you met John briefly. As you see, John and I met while working with MTV, with Nickelodeon, and Addicting Games and Shockwave.com. I mean, everybody here has to know one of those sites or the other. They were very popular online sites, and we worked on a game, or an app an iPhone app to bring addicting games to the iPhone. Worked on that together. So, and it, by the way, it went to #1 in 40 hours. I think something like that. Bill Wentworth, longtime collaborator. We've worked together for many, many years. Some of you who follow which games have which credits on will see Bill's name on a lot of credits. We work very well together on creative concepts, and then he makes beautiful things happen. That's what he does. And David Bergantino is a new addition to the team. Friend of John's and a very talented writer with a lot of gaming credentials. Let me pass the microphone to John so he can brag about David.
Someone's got to do it. Should I give it to David?
No.
So yeah, I worked with David for a number of years at Nickelodeon as well, prior to the other David coming along. And you know, David is not only an author and a game producer and a game designer and various other things. He also, I think, the thing that I find most interesting is he's actually part of the Star Wars universe. He's been a character in the Star Wars universe. Two characters, all right. See,
Both dead.
Both dead. No. They were very popular. Anything that I missed? As you can see up there, he's been with a number of companies, done a number of really interesting things, and is a great creative mind, and we're really excited to have him on the team.
Yeah, so the game development at this point is concept and creative. So what you see there is the creative team who's going to bring you the story, bring the concept, and prepare the game to actually be produced. What is our next slide? On the video, you saw some of the early concept work. I liken this to my favorite part of the Shrek, DVD, all this extra features, where you get to see the iterations that Shrek went through from their first guess of what they might make an ogre look like till the final one. We are in concept development, and again with a number of talented artists working together. And the interesting thing about these is we don't know if these characters are going to look like this in the final game, but you get something on paper so you can stare at it, you can talk about it, you can build a story around it, and then things change. But as you can see, we've got some talented artists working on the project. So how can you be involved? I'm going to pass this to John, who loves to talk about Kickstarter.
So I think part of showing that early concept work too is sort of getting to the point of the whole idea behind Kickstarter not only is a different funding model, but also what we're doing is not just raising funding that way, but also, I talked about game trailers in the video. We're working with game trailers to actually document the whole process of creating this game from start to finish, so you can see every part of how a game gets made and how David Crane works, for better or worse. And part of that, so part of the idea behind Kickstarter is your fund isn't just, you're not just donating money. The idea is you are pre-ordering a game or stepping up your involvement with the game up to the point of, being in the game. And so some of that is what we talk about here. At the very least, you get a copy of the game. But beyond that, there's all kinds of ways to be more involved with the game, from access to the making of documentary that I mentioned, digital venture creative book. I'm not going to list all of these, but there are a lot of great things. I think the badges are really cool, harkening back to the original Activision badges. A little bit of if you guys remember those, these would be collectible badges in the same vein. Treasure in the game that bears your identity, or really, the most exciting one is, have your face in the Hall of Kings level, where a lot of this, the story will come to. A lot of it will be revealed in that level. And lunch with the team, as you saw. There may be squab there. So what we wanted to do is, if you fund the project, you get all of these rewards we talked about. But that wasn't enough coming to CGE. We wanted to make sure there was something really special at CGE when we launched this. So we've created 2 different posters, only going to be available at 2 backers of this project, and and one of them will only be available at this show, in fact. And so the first 250 people who contribute at the show can choose one of the 2 exclusive posters. if you are contributing of $100 or more, you can actually have both signed posters. And we'll be at a table. I guess we talk about that in a second, actually. We'll get to that. So the steps here are pretty simple. Go to jungleventure.com/kick. That's the name of the company. It's not Jungle Adventure, it's Jungle Venture. It's a play on words. /kick. You can contribute. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then if you just forward your confirmation email to this email address, cgebacker@jungleventure.com, then the first 250 people who send that email off, we'll have instructions on the cable too if you forget any of this. But first 250 who send that off and then show up at the table can come pick up the poster, and David will be there signing them. And if he's not there, we'll have a few signed to hand out.
Don't do this yet.
Don't do this yet, David said, if you didn't hear it. And now, wait about 30 seconds and then you can do it.
Right.
If you please. We'll see what happens. As we said, we're doing this live.
So, again, part of this is you get to come along for the ride. And for those of you who've never done this, welcome to the club. This is a Kickstarter project with a little green button that you click to say launch. And so together we're going to launch this Kickstarter project right here and now. -0. So, anybody have a bell? Ding. So that's it. The Kickstarter project is live. As John said, I'll be sitting at a table on the booth floor signing these posters for anyone who contributes. And again, you get a confirmation email from Kickstarter. Just forward that email, and Emily, who will be at the table, will be able to look you up and find out that yes, indeed, you contributed right here and now, and you get this one special collectible. So, Q&A means you guys get to ask questions. We'll bring up house lights if we need to do that. I guess our presentation was just so thorough. All right, question. Well, the concept is under development. All right, yes, the question is, good idea. Oh, you're going to make him repeat the question. That's a good idea.
Hi, the question is, can you tell us anything beyond what we've seen here as far as the plot, storyline, and what the game might look like?
Well, you know, I'd like to be able to do a lot of that. But again, part of the Kickstarter philosophy is we're going to be developing that before your eyes. You get to be part of that. There are going to be times that we're not sure which way to go, and we'll open it up for voting. So you get to see these kind of decisions. I've been doing a lot of concept development, and interestingly enough, part of what I've been doing is I have this great idea, and I say, this would be a great idea, but this won't necessarily make it into the game until I know where the budget is. So there are a lot of decisions I can't finalize, but I'm not throwing away any of these little ideas. I'm putting them, aside and saying this is a fabulous idea. So in a way, I'm sitting up here and saying, if you know my career, you know I've done 100 games, even though everybody only remembers Pitfall for some reason. But there are a lot of good games out there in that catalog, things that I've done. So the question is, sort of, do you want to see what I can do without the creative constraints put on me by a publisher to make the best game that I can make in this genre? Beyond that, it's not going to be a Temple Run clone. It's going to be, I'm thinking that the jungle will actually be one of the stars of the game. I'm not thinking Walt Disney Jungle Book when I'm thinking this jungle. I'm thinking more James Cameron's Avatar jungle. I mean, it's going to be a living, breathing jungle. It's going to be very much a part of the adventure. I have several worlds, and so maybe the game is one world, maybe the game is these 3 worlds that I have in mind. It's really going to come down to, this Kickstarter project finishes on September 15th, and at that point, I will know exactly what the budget is for me to develop this game, and I'll do the best game I can. There are very few people in this business who have been in the business as long as I have, and there's nobody that is still designing and programming games every single day. That's what I do, and I've gotten pretty good at it. I mean, what can I say? I'll stare at a screen and I'll say, this thing needs something, it needs something, it needs something. That's what it needs, and I'll write the program and I'll play it. And I said, you were right. It's what I do. It's what I've been doing for all this time. So it's kind of an interesting point. Is, of course, you want to know what the game is. Potentially, you want to know what the game is before you back the game. But it is David Crane's Jungle Adventure, and it'll be everything that I can make it. Any other questions? Got a microphone we want to pass around, or?
I can be loud.
All right, you can be loud.
So, is part of the process that you guys are going through in Kickstarter is deciding what platform you're going to use this for?
Well, yes and no. The interesting thing, when you look at this kind of project, we really like the iOS platform, we like the mobile platforms, but you're going to back and you're going to have a quote-unquote tangible project. You're going to have a digital download. You're going to have this thing. It'll be for Mac or PC, your choice. But absolutely, you start increasing the raise, and mobile will be the first thing we want to do. But it's kind of hard with mobile. We can't, mobile is kind of this whole dreaded freemium content games where you have to make it free and then you have to add stuff, and you're constantly raping your customer to buy more stuff. And there's this whole model going on in the mobile, and so it's nice to have. You're going to get something. You're going to get a game for Mac or PC, and everybody's got one of those, right? So, but then yes, more platforms will be added as it becomes possible. Okay.
Actually, mine was platform. Mine was platform related also. I mean, I've got both PCs and Macs, so I'm not big fan of playing games on. And it sounds like you will consider actually going down this depending on how it goes. Would you consider going to something like this or what?
It's certainly a possibility. At this point, nobody knows exactly what that is yet.
They've got a lot of money.
They've got a lot of money, so they will produce a product. That's another kind of funny thing that about these Kickstarter projects. We will not be the first not to deliver. Somebody's going to be the first to raise money and not deliver. It's not going to be us. This is what I do. This is what I do every day. So, and Ouya is it's very hot. It's very topical right now. We'll see where it goes. All right, right here in front. We're trying to fix it in real time. Until you click that green button, you don't know what your URL is. So we followed the naming convention everybody else. We guessed it's going to be this, hyphen this, hyphen this, and there's a -0 at the end they put in there for some reason. So he's fixing it.
Those who recently funded or recently launched, it is there.
Okay, recently launched on Kickstarter.com. Thank you. We were trying to make it easy because Kickstarter,
There is currently one backer at $25.
All right. Yes.
Now you got 2.
It's called Jungle Adventure and not Pitfall 3. Do you own any of the Pitfall 1 or 2 name copyrights, anything that gives you a little more freedom about even putting in Easter eggs or allowing you to use, fonts or anything from the first game? Or
I do not. Pitfall is a trademark of Activision, and Activision has just launched a Pitfall mobile game, which may have been why I made a comment about Temple Run, but You know, it's kind of funny. If today's intellectual property laws existed in Leonardo da Vinci's time, the Mona Lisa would belong to the Queen or to whoever was paying his salary at the time. So Activision owns everything about Pitfall. We are not making Pitfall. We do not claim to be making Pitfall. You know, we're not stepping on Activision's toes. Activision has been very clear that, you know, they admit that I was designer of Pitfall and all that, so I can say that that's what I was. But you know, Activision has brought out a Pitfall version every few years, and they just brought out their latest. This is different. This is, you know, I kind of enjoyed the whole jungle adventure. It was somewhat influenced by Indiana Jones and other things like that. But it's never really been done where the jungle is one of the stars, and that's really what I want to hope to do. I see a hand here.
Do you envision this game with third-person computer environment or some kind of platform?
Well, that's a good question. You know, what's interesting, actually, I heard the same thing being said on the Intellivision panel just an hour ago. I've been designing casual games all my life, at Atari and then at Activision. The games that we did were for the whole family to play. Your Atari was in your living room with your family, and you know, you played two-player games and that sort of thing. And then games got more and more complicated, and 30-page manuals and 80 hours just to get into the game and that sort of thing. And that's fine. That appealed to a certain type of player, but it was kind of a niche. You know, the hardcore game player was maybe 5% of game players who would really go into those, get deeply into those games. And about 10 years ago, there was this revolution called casual gaming. And I'd been in casual gaming the whole time. I had not gone and done those mega projects because I really didn't enjoy it. And it's kind of like Seinfeld said. He said, you know, if you go to a bad movie, you're there for 2 hours. If you're in a bad movie, you know, it's 2 years. Well, you're working on a major project that takes many years to complete, and you didn't like it when you're done, you know, it's better to, you know, keep my projects a little smaller. So the goal here is to make this game accessible to every game player around, people who loved Pitfall and who are now my age. So it is primarily going to start out as a platformer, but it's going to be done with 3D technology. I'm currently looking at Unity. It has a lot of the capabilities that I need, and if I can really squeeze everything out of it that I want, that will probably be the case. So what you're talking about really is a platform game in 3D, which means I can turn toward the jungle, I can move into the jungle, there's a lot of things that I can do, but I can still make the gameplay as accessible as a platform game. Anybody else? These lights are blinding, so I can't see if there's any other hands out there. All right, I see one.
David, so how much money are you looking for initially?
The Kickstarter raise starts at $900,000, and there have been a couple projects kind of in that scale. I mean, you can spend $1 million, you can spend $10 million, you can spend $30 million making a game. We don't envision making the $30 million style of game, but really what it comes down to is you see what the budget is, you decide what kind of talent you want to use. I mean, we can have 3D models done in China for a certain price, but we have no control over what that is, and it's a very difficult process to manage sometimes. But if we, you know, use modelers in the United States, they cost 3 times as much. So you basically have to do a trade-off between budget and quality, and something that is what I do every day, so it's not a difficult thing. So the 900K raise, I have a game that I can do. It's going to be a great game. If we raise 900,000 even, that's the game you're going to get, and I won't let it out of the studio until I think it's fun and you'll enjoy it. But if the raise goes above that, we have lots of different ways to do more platforms, more levels, more creative talent potentially. More, you know. A lot of the things that I have in mind, I'm going to be doing the primary programming, but there are things. I mean, if you watch the, you know, Cameron's Avatar movie, for example, if you remember the first time you were introduced to the jungle, what I noticed was that there were dust motes, there were insects, there were live, characters. I was sitting there thinking, there's probably a team of 20 people who just keep track of the insects on that show. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, is I may need 2 more programmers, 3 more programmers, just to manage the neat things that I want to do that really make the whole thing work. And so again, it's really, we're telling you as much as we can about the game because we're going to be creating the game as we go with your involvement, anyone who's a backer. So really what you're doing is you're telling me by backing this project that you want to see what I can do as a jungle adventure in 2012 technology. So I'm going to be signing posters at a table or upstairs. And again, if anybody's interested in this particular collectible, back the project, send the email, forward the email, follow those instructions, and we'll look forward to including you in the game design.